The mysterious, the macabre, the out of this world. The following are real people. They have real stories, and they've had real encounters. Here tonight on Newsworthy, two words and two question marks.
He's alive! Have you checked the children? Get out!
Hey, you. You like jerky, right? Right now, go to Smoking Gun Jerky, Lincoln, Nebraska, on the website. They have over 50 different varieties of jerky, not to mention marinades, instructions, everything you need to make your own jerky at home. Also, use the code Cryptid10 to get a great discount on some amazing products. Cryptid10 Smoking Gun Jerky, Lincoln, Nebraska. Check it out. And now, back to the show. Hey there, and welcome to Newsworthy Encounters. Tonight we have an extra special guest. I'm excited to have him. He is a self proclaimed occult professor. I'm excited to have Sadhu Dah with us today. Sadhu, welcome to the show.
Hey, nice to be here.
Man, we were talking a little bit before the show. You currently live in Thailand. Is that how did
I
you
do.
tell us a little bit about you, and more importantly, tell us how you ended up from Washington, Texas area to Thailand?
Well, it all started, which is crazy to say, more than a decade ago. I'm in my 30s now, and I was in my late teens when I really got involved with all of this, and it began with a case, my first case, where I had answered a Craigslist post in Skagit County in Washington State, and I wanted to go and explore the paranormal a little bit. So I answered this post to people looking for people that wanted to be on a paranormal investigative team. That led to an unbelievable encounter, a woman that got possessed, and that sparked the entire journey that followed after me meeting my first teacher, me training with monks, me moving to Thailand, studying and becoming an Ajarn, which is a Thai shaman, participating in so many different ritual workings, working with clients all over the world, actually becoming a very well known and good at my job, demonologist, exorcist, and even publishing my own book on demonology and landing a TV show.
Wow, that is a huge step. Now you said that all happened as a result of one incident. What happened there?
Oh, that was what I would call like, everyone has their like Batman origin story, right?
Right.
And for me, you'd mentioned right before we got into the show that you wanted to talk about the talisman. And so we were at this place called the Northern State Sanitarium or Mental Asylum, which is now just these decrepit barn grounds on the old farmland where the inpatients used to actually like farm the land and run it like years ago. And then the main part, like the actual sanitarium, is now a Gary Job Corps. But we were going through these abandoned rafters. We'd gone there like as an investigative team. I'm with this brand new group of people. I've had my own paranormal experiences previous, and this was an opportunity for me to try to get some more understanding, to learn more about this. And you have to keep in mind at this point in the story, this is the very beginning. I have no training. I have no idea what I'm doing. So we go up into this building that's half burnt down, and there's in the rafters I see like a bunch of symbols spray painted on the wall, and then I see something kind of hanging. So I climb up there, and this building's like half burnt down. So it's pretty sketchy, and the boards are like creaking. Some of them are cracked and burnt, and like there's holes everywhere. And I see like these inverted pentagrams, and like what I know now were like Kraulian sigils and stuff like that. And then I seen this like braided hemp cord with like a piece of like jade and a chicken bone and a feather on it. And I decided, as one does when they're not using their brain, I said, "Oh, I'm going to take this." And so I took it. And there was a girl that was with us, and she wanted to come back with me later in the night and hang out, as adults do. And she wanted to wear the necklace. She wanted to try it on. I know this may sound unbelievable to people, and we had several witnesses um, who took part in this 7 day, basically what I call my trial by fire. And this woman proceeded to act as if she was choking, and like her body was like contorting and twitching like in a horror movie, and immediately something was not right. So I didn't really know what to think about it. Get the necklace off of her, put it away. And then what transpired over the next few hours in that room we were in, I saw the eyes go completely black. I saw her, and like I said, I know this is going to sound unbelievable. I saw her crab walk up the wall.
Ooh, ooh.
Stuff out of nightmares.
Yeah, it's
There was
nightmare
facial
fuel.
contorting, low guttural growls. Like this was a full. So if we were using terminology, and if we were like referring to Ed and Lorraine's work, right? You have the stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Because of the attachment and connection with the talisman, this skipped all those stages. It didn't need to go from infestation to internal, external oppression and into possession. It went straight to possession. So it kind of got to break the rules in some regards.
Mm.
This girl was not only doing things that I could not imagine to be possible before this point, but I had moments where I was questioning reality. Um, I kept thinking that I was going to wake up at some point, that this was like the worst nightmare I've ever had in my life, and that this could not be real life. And I do remember one specific moment where she was in the bed, like rolling like around on her side back and forth, like she was on fire, screaming in this like guttural ground. This is like a tiny little girl, and she was screaming in what was not a very human sounding voice even remotely, and it just shook me to my core. And I remember saying out loud to myself, this can't be real life. And
Wow.
at one point she came through, like she would have these moments of like clarity and reclaiming where she would come through, and it was like she was gasping and fighting for her own consciousness, for her own life, her own self, and her own identity. And at one point she said, "In my phone, sensei, call him." And then she went back to like going all crazy. So I'm like, okay, what do I do here? I'm all alone in this situation. I grab the phone. I I go through her contacts, and I see a contact labeled sensei. And so I'm like, what do I even tell this guy? So, and this is like, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 in the morning. I'm
Oh my
calling this
goodness.
random stranger labeled as sensei in this girl's phone. And I call him, and I hear like a very disgruntled voice that I have obviously woken up. And he's just like, what do you want? And I explained to him, I don't know if you're going to believe me, but I was told to call you, and there are some unbelievable things happening right now. And you could hear the shift in his attitude. And he was like, tell me what's going on.
Mm.
So I explained to him the impossible situation, and he presented me with 2 choices. He said, do you want me to come there right now, make this all like it was a bad dream, and you'll question if it ever happened, and I'll fix everything, and life just goes back to being what it was for you? Or Do you want me to give you a little bit of help, leave you to your own devices, and if you get out of this, I'll answer every question you've ever had about the paranormal?
Red pill, blue pill. Morpheus.
Yeah. So I I thought about it, and I wanted I wanted to try to help this girl, and I also wanted to understand how any of this could ever happen. So he proceeded to give me a topic to research, sigils, just kind of starting the rabbit trail. Little did I know, the man behind the phone was actually a high-ranking Rinpoche Lama, a very, very powerful mystic, and somebody who would become one of my first teachers, and true to his word, answered every question under the sun I had about the paranormal, and could provide science, evidence, research, and explain it in such an articulate way, more so than I could ever do. And he just, even to this day, is still somebody I refer to, and we work cases as equals now. But in that 7 days, what ended up occurring, to give you the Cliff Notes version, was there was another researcher, and he's done some work with some big names, and he's gone on his own journey of sorts. Kyle Ryan. So Kyle, I had called him over, and he was the lead for that paranormal team that I had joined, and Kyle witnessed a lot of the phenomena. At one point, we were over at his house with the girl that was experiencing all of the phenomena, and he witnessed her do unbelievable things, from like facial contortions to screaming and glasses breaking around, and also tried to put a silver cross on her, and it actually blistered and burned her skin.
Oh wow. Let
And
me
he had
ask you a
to he
quick
had to actually
question.
break the cross and pull it off of her, because it was causing so much pain to her, and it was noticeably creating wounds on her body.
Jeez. Let me ask you a quick
We ended up
question.
getting her to a cat. What's that?
I was going to ask you a quick question, and pardon my layman. I've never been through that. I've never seen that other than in the movies, but I've always had this question. You've been there, so let me just ask: when someone goes through that physically, even I mean, it is from a demon or a possession or whatever, but their body is physically going through that. The contortions, the angles, the crab walks up the stairs. How does that, when it's all said and done, does the human body respond to those type actions? They're not. I mean, our bodies aren't meant to do those things.
No, they're not. And this is where things get really complicated, and it would take a lot of time to intricately explain things step by step. But if we wanted to simplify it, it has to do with the quasi physical nature of these entities, and that bridging link with your electromagnetic field, and the manipulation of it through your own neurology. So think of this as like a computer system, your neurology, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they know how to input like commands and functions, and then around this neurology, or your body, right? Everything that's inside of it, you have this little electrical cloud, and anything that's manipulated or maneuvered inside of that cloud, if done correctly, can have a corresponding response that can be very pinpoint accurate inside the actual neurology of the meat suit, right? So these entities, they're not even really here per se.
Gotcha.
They come from another dimension of existence. And what they're actually doing is more akin to what we would label as astral projection.
Gotcha.
So when you see a very low level demonic haunting versus a very high level demonic haunting, it's not necessarily that the demon is stronger, or like a soldier versus a devil. It's that they are more here in
Gotcha.
resonance,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
It does. It does.
So the stronger of a link, the more rapport that an entity has, the more it can kind of manipulate and bend the rules of our reality. Because in a sense, it's actually kind of blending that physical body to a certain extent with the what you would call the tendrils or that projection point back into its own reality.
Gotcha.
So when it does this kind of stuff to the human body, there is a price to pay. There is a toll to it. And if it's not cut out soon enough, if the haunting is not solved, if the possession is not broken, you can see irreversible damage done to the body. Um, in my book, I actually talk about how Wendigo psychosis can actually lead to a bastardized version of human transfiguration that is impossible to come back from
Oh,
and
wow.
permanently alters the structure of the human body, including the mind. The mind is completely gone. So it's not
Hey,
like you become a superpowered beast. You as a person no longer exist, and you become more or less the womb that this entity bridges into. So that's what these type of entities are going for, is they're trying to do one of two things. They're trying to they're trying to commit to a host that will generate enough sustenance or food to them through murder suicides, or through basically a big feeding, a release of very negative lower vibrational energy, which usually comes from acts of violence and etc. Or they want to go for perfect possession, where they will fully integrate with that meat suit, and they will ride it till the battery runs out and then jump to another host, incubate, and push the parasitic cycle forward.
you mentioned energy, and in talking with many people who deal with the spiritual realm, energy is something that comes up time and time and time again. And as we learn more about vibration and energy, how much of that is uh I guess my question is, how much are we learning that vibration and energy in the human body versus the world, or in the subworld and the different planes of our world, I guess is the best way to put that, interact with each other?
Well, it's all about the level of intensity. So if I am talking about a sound wave, so a perfect example would be like, let's consider a radio station,
Sure.
and you have AM and FM. Okay, so you have two different types of broadcasting frequencies, and in the ranges of those, you have multiple different stations running. And sometimes if you play with the knob, you can get the bleed through from two different stations.
Right.
So, you'll hear a song playing while you're hearing some guy talking in the background like an announcer, right? And those are two separate stations, but you found that right node where they kind of sort of overlap. So when we're talking about entities, or even in an occult sense, playing with different frequencies of energy and etc., we're talking about turning that dial to get a very specific response. Same for an entity, turning that dial to get a very specific response. And it's all about that finesse and that tuning. And if you know what you're doing, or unfortunately, if you accidentally get the wrong result and you were trying for something different. The same goes for the electrical component of things. As we know from the University of Heart Math and some of their research studies using sonar technology, we found that the electromagnetic field of the heart is not only real, but it expands 6 to 8 feet. So at any given time, when you're interacting with somebody else, you ever notice how someone can be a bad mood and then they just bring your mood down? That's
Yeah.
because there's a specific frequency being electromagnetically transmitted. And when you get in a certain level of rapport with that person, you'll either override it and not be affected by it. High vibration, vibrating so high that low vibrations can't touch it, similar to protecting ourselves from these type of entities, maintaining a state of what they call heart coherence. When you're just enough of a resonant match with these type of low vibrations with the person in a bad mood, you find yourself getting sucked into a bad mood, right?
Right.
So it's the same with what these things do, how they present themselves. It's all about rapport. And if you're in a state of heart coherence, it's actually corrosive to these entities. They live and exist and emit a frequency that needs to essentially terraform an environment. That's why when a haunting occurs, they're nesting. They're doing everything they can to generate phenomena that is what? It's meant to induce fear. And what is fear? A lower vibration. They want to make the house, the home, a hospitable environment for them, and they want to stage their target so that they can get into rapport with them, because humans will naturally harmonize at a higher vibration than these entities. So it's all a game of collusion. It's all a game of manipulation.
Wow, dude, that's that's amazing. And that is probably the best definition I've ever heard. Congratulations. That was
I mean,
awesome.
this is all like science based, and it all comes from, I have to give a heavy amount of credit to my teachers and the way that they taught me, and me being very analytical minded, very Western minded in a lot of ways. So I have to make, because I'm not a religious person, but I have to make sense of these esoteric and metaphysical principles that have been around for a very, very long time and seem to have some very solid credence to them. And when you can find the right science, when you can match these things up and see what Taoists were talking about, and and Vedic practitioners, etc., you find that like this scientific explanation we have for it is just the first time we've been able to define it in a Western context. But the ancients have known this stuff for thousands of years, man.
Right. That makes sense. So do tell us where our listeners can find all your stuff. I know you have an awesome web page. I've been there. It's cool. It's well done. You mentioned that you have a book available. Where can they get your book? Where can they reach out if they need to talk to you about the things that you offer for the individual?
So my website is a one-stop shop where you can find everything that I'm doing, and that's www.thesadhudah.com. And if you're interested in the services that I offer, um, that is a discussion of if it's paranormal and life threatening, that's no cost whatsoever. That is my service that will always remain free. So help for people who are afflicted with the paranormal. If you're interested in amulets or student lessons, things like that, I fairly do charge for those things. But I have a YouTube where I put out free content. You can find that just by searching Sadhu Dah or finding the link through my website. I have a Patreon with the full length episodes, and then I have a TV show on newrealitytv.com where you can find the Sadhu Dah experience.
Man, that is amazing. I absolutely can't wait to have you back so we can dig into these topics so deep. I really do. And I appreciate you coming on. I know it's very late where you're at. Thank you for staying up and
No
thanks for
problem.
being here.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
And Jerry, if you can't see the light,
Be the light.